Hey everyone, welcome to video 6. I am filming this by lantern light because it's getting dark. It's almost 9 p.m. and Natalie and I are back at the campground for the night. Back there, you can actually see our tent this time from my filming. We had a terrific day today. We got up, experienced nature, ate some lunch, and then we rolled into town. Our first shop that we visited was, I'm going to look at my notes for this because my brain is fried from all day in the sun. Today we went first to the Hot Springs Rafting Company, which they do, they rent out inner tubes, they rent out all kinds of rafts, and the guy who runs the store actually takes groups on rafting trips when the water's going well. There was some debate about the water today, which was pretty cool. We actually did not get a chance to meet the owner, but we had some great conversations with two people named Flounder and Trina. When we walked into the store, Flounder was leaning on the counter. He's an older man, and his hair is all white, tied back in a ponytail, and we just struck up a conversation, and he's been a truck driver for so long, and has spent the last 3 months on the road, and actually was in Chicago on Friday, and now was in Hot Springs now on Tuesday, and has been here for at least a day. And he always likes to stop here and camp and see his dad in Asheville, and I thought that was a pretty cool person to kind of meet, and he just hangs out for the people, the food, and the great times he has. And then Trina walked out of the back just to see who was poking around and what was going on, and she is actually a nurse at the nearby hospital and had just finished a shift and was telling us a little bit about the patients she worked with, which was also pretty neat, though we didn't get a chance to talk to her about COVID in the hospital. That is a potential for if we run into her in our brief stop there tomorrow morning. We took a break from some of the work after a few hours in, and we went up to the Appalachian Trail. So it runs directly through Hot Springs. So we chose a part on this place across from Hot Springs to hike up to this gorgeous overlook, and I will let Hiking Kieran talk a little bit from here. Natalie and I got really hot and are taking a break from today's talking to people adventure and are hiking a little bit along the Appalachian Trail and just stuck our heads in the river. If you're wondering how today is going, it's going pretty good. This is your 2:15 p.m. update. We walked along the road up to the Welcome to Hot Springs sign and took some selfies with that like true tourists. There's Natalie in the background getting her stuff together. What's up? Welcome to the top of our climb. Look at this beautiful view. We have gorgeous Smoky Mountains. We are on the Appalachian Trail and we have reached the top of our hike today at this wonderful little rocky stop. There's Natalie enjoying the shade, soaking up the beautiful view.
Mostly the shade and the view, but
because look at how beautiful nature is. Like, how does nature do it? Mother Earth is really just astounding. Astounds me every day.
My girl Gaia.
Had to share. While we're out here still admiring this view, I feel the need to point out that right there, that little cluster of buildings that you're seeing, that is the town of Hot Springs. It is right across the bridge from where we're standing right now, and the Appalachian Trail actually follows from here across the bridge and straight through town before continuing on top of that mountain there. This is a good time for me to share something very unfortunate with everyone. So, I didn't put on sunscreen yesterday before driving 6 hours. I didn't think about it. I was joking about getting like a car tan from my elbow, like in the window. That didn't happen. Instead, I got this nasty thing. This sunburn all the way. It goes down from like my knee up to like where my pants were. And then over here, nothing. So I'm gonna have a striped left thigh. So right now I'm here on this rock trying to sunburn my right thigh to even it out, because that's just how I'm gonna roll with this one. Now there's sunscreen. There really is. Today the issue about who's wearing masks and who's not became a little bit more relevant in our lives. One stop owner even turned people away who weren't wearing masks and said, you can stop in to get a cafe item, but if you're going to shop and walk around here, you need to be wearing some sort of covering on your face. And there was also a employee at Mountain Bluff Outfitters, and he was wearing a mask as he rang people up in the checkout line. So we talked to him about that because he was one of the first people I'd seen. And he was telling us about how Hot Springs is basically running on tourism. It always has. That is what the town comes from and is built on. So we were talking to him about that, and he was telling us about how if he meets hundreds of people in a week from all across the country who have come on motorcycles or hiking or just to visit the mountains, and he is just worried that he might pick this up and then give it to any of these hundreds of people. And we were asking him about that in comparison to the rest of the town who didn't seem as worried. And he actually had a really great quote that said, if I'm wrong, then I look silly. If they're wrong, then my grandma might die. And that just kind of like sat with me for a second. And he was like, I hope more people wear masks. And that was actually a really interesting contrast to our last conversation we had in Hot Springs with a man named Aaron, who runs the tobacco shop. Aaron is a character. We knew it was going to be fascinating the moment we walked in, and he picked up his chicken to pose for us. He is an avid anti-masker. He cannot envision himself wearing a mask for the workday, and said that he would never ask anyone else to do that either. And he said that a lot of the visitors also don't seem to worry about it. And he was like, if I get someone sick, then it would just be like someone giving me the flu. And if they're angry about that, I can't feel bad about that. Just like you can't go back and yell at the person who gave you the flu last year. And we talked for a solid hour with Aaron. He has some fascinating ideas about the world and really got into the concept of reality and truth versus fiction. And Aaron and I are probably on opposing political beliefs on most things, but he truly believes in math and science as the basis for all factual understanding. And he was talking about it with the statistics of COVID, about how people need to be looking more at the age demographic when considering statistics about fatalities and sicknesses, which is actually something I agree with, and something that's often overlooked when you just see numbers that are spiking. Because if you're talking about elderly people who were on their last leg and you didn't really know when they were going to make it past then, it is different than if people my age or if people in their 30s or 40s were getting sick. And that's kind of, we need to find that like middle ground and see how that's going. And he was talking about that, and it was very interesting to hear him go on about it, because I don't know many people in my personal life back at home who have that belief at all. And if they do, it's very distant on social media that I'm seeing it for a few seconds. So to actually have that prolonged conversation with him and hear his ideas, and just, we also talked about bias a lot and about what personal bias people carry into a conversation. And every time he said anything, he always wanted to start it with, and this is my opinion with all of my biases. And he actually gave me some book recommendations and movie recommendations that I will have to check out. I have them written down when I get back into civilization. So that was a really neat encounter we had today. There are a lot of bikers in Hot Springs. Like, at least 40% of the people I'm seeing have Harley Davidson t-shirts on. Motorcycles are running in and out. Three-wheelers are less common, but they're also in and out. And so I was talking to a group of bikers and was taking their pictures, but I couldn't find, there wasn't the right wave or moment, or I wasn't thinking about it to ask them about what the draw was. And in the middle of my lengthy conversation with Aaron, I did find that because he was telling us about the tourist season. And Hot Springs is nestled in a valley between many mountains in the Great Smoky Mountain Range. And we had to go through Tennessee to come into it. So you have to go, when you're going south, around the mountains is actually the fastest way. So a lot of people on their journeys south or north on their Harleys will go through Hot Springs, and it also has some beautiful roads for that and some great lodging. And he gave me a tourist talk, which was pretty fun. We also talked a lot about how his business was doing with COVID. Aaron, his shop has a little bit of everything in it. You can find compost that is presently being made with worms. You can find beehives and crates outside. You can find the chicken clucking around on the ground. Some days, he said, you can find a Rottweiler back with him. You can get beer, marshmallows, tobacco, ravioli. If you can think of it, there's probably something similar to it in Aaron's store. And so he didn't have to close because he was labeled an essential business because of his food and alcohol sales. I'm going to move the lantern so you can see me better. His food and alcohol sales. So he had enough customer traffic, he said, to keep him stable. But tourist season in Hot Springs is March through June. And all of the employees we talked to today kind of said the same thing, that COVID really shut them down. Though in Aaron's case, not literally, but it slowed his business. And COVID killed their tourist season. So now, while they might have had enough to get by or enough in savings to use, they might not have enough to stay open through the winter. Or they might be scraping by come next January and really desperate in the new tourist season. So care for your small businesses right now. They need it. There is a restaurant, the Spring Creek Tavern, on the main street of Hot Springs, and this friendly guy with his gun in his holster and his rainbow tie-dye t-shirt stood out on the steps all of yesterday and all today, and he must be really hot and just kind of dying inside just standing in there. But he talks to every single person on the street. And in all of the times Natalie and I passed him, walking back and forth, talking to people, finding new people, deciding to go somewhere else, we would talk to him, and we kept saying we were going to go in and have the food. So we did. And we went in today for dinner, and it was the first day actually that they opened for public customers. And they had this down to a system. After a table would leave, the server would come, bus it, Lysol it, and then they set a timer that they switched, a little hourglass. And after that hourglass went up, the server came back, sanitized it again with soap and water while taking up the Lysol, and then the next people could come to the table.